Hey everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about the first guitar that I ever got and what really inspired me to learn how to play the guitar. So today we're going to go over the 2002 Squier Affinity Strat. So when I was young, the school that I went to, the middle school, so you start band when you go to middle school if you want to be in the marching band. My father was an alto saxophonist, first chair at his high school, and I'd heard about it growing up, and he'd get it out from time to time, and he'd play it for us, and play Christmas songs during Christmas time, and, you know, fun stuff like that. So I decided, you know what, I want to join the band, and I want to play his saxophone, and I'll take it with me to school. So I did. Signed up for band, went to that first day, and it just wasn't for me. I didn't like it at all. It didn't feel natural to me. I'd always been musical as a kid. I liked to sing a lot. I liked to record with those old video cassette tape recorders, singing songs, and I loved the sing-along song VHS tapes and loved singing those and listening to the radio with my dad in the car. So I was always musically inclined, but I didn't know how to play any instruments. And the saxophone just didn't really do it for me. I didn't really feel a connection to it at all, really. I felt like I was just kind of going through the motions. So otherwise in my life, I had recently been introduced to Kiss and AC/DC and Van Halen. Those were three bands that at the time would be considered dad rock, and I guess you could still call it that. But my dad had given me those cassette tapes to listen to, and I loved them. And I decided, you know, I want to be able to play that kind of music. I want to be able to play songs like Crazy Train and Let's Go Crazy by Prince and Ice Cream Man by Van Halen. And I had no concept of how the guitar was played, what went into it, how much work was required, and the fact that these individuals were special individuals that were playing. Prince, Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, these guys, Ace Frehley, Angus Young, these guys were the best of the best. Savants, sort of, if you will, with the guitar. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And I told my dad, I said, Dad, I don't want to disappoint you, but I don't want to be in band. I want to learn to play the guitar. So we went to Guitar Center in Indianapolis, Indiana, and walked in the store. And right in the store, right when you walk in, were a bunch of boxes. Giant boxes with this really cheesy graffiti-looking font, best of my memory. Squier, Fender, Strat, and it came with a Frontman 15G amplifier. And this was in 2002. I remember looking at them, and they had two colors. They had red and they had blue. Both of them had white pickguards. And for you sports fans, you'll get a kick out of this. So my dad said, how about the blue one? And I said, I don't want the blue one. That's the same color of the Colts. They'll think I'm a loser. Keep in mind, the Colts were the laughingstock of Indianapolis and the NFL for a long time. Peyton Manning had just come. He'd only been there a few years. I was a season ticket holder then, and I still am to this day a season ticket holder. I was naive, did not realize where we were headed. But anyway, I didn't want to be a loser like the Colts, if you could imagine that. So I picked the red one, this one right here. And I remember taking it home, and I remember going down into the basement, plugging in that Frontman 15G amplifier, plugging in this guitar, putting it on the distortion setting, turning the distortion up all the way, and doing this kind of thing. I didn't know what I was doing, but it was making really cool noises. I loved the way that it sounded. I had no concept. I'd never really paid attention to guitarists. YouTube didn't exist. We didn't really have those programs on television. At least my family didn't watch them. So I'd never really watched anyone play the guitar. So I didn't know what I was doing. I was just, you know, hitting it, and, you know, that's where it all started for me. So, that aside, I want to actually review this guitar for what it is. Detached from my memories, detached from my nostalgia. So, let's get into the nuts and bolts of what this guitar is. Now, I remember I had a friend who lived across the street from me, and he was a huge Fender guy. In fact, I ended up getting a Squier Strat because I liked his guitar so much. Like I said a minute ago, I never really watched him play. I just knew that he played. And he had like American Strats, and he had like hot rod tube amp. Keep in mind, we're like 12 years old. No, we're like 12 years old, 11 years old, and this kid had gear that some of us still don't have. And I remember every time he'd pick up this red Strat, he'd say, "Man, your guitar is easy to play." I never really understood what he meant by that, but I think I do now. So this guitar, out of the factory, has incredibly low action with no buzzing. I haven't really adjusted the action much at all, ever, in 20 years. And I've never touched the truss rod, never adjusted the neck. And it's still great. The action is really low on this guitar, and it is very easy to play compared to just about anything else that I've got. The only one that I have that might play better as far as, you know, easy action is concerned is probably the 94 Black Label Fender. Other than that, this one, it just feels so nice to play. The action is really low, the harmonics are really easy to hit. The tuning, they're no-name tuners, but they're not those diamond-shaped ones that get a lot of bad press and bad reputation. They look like Fender tuners. They aren't, I mean, they're import, but they do the job pretty well. The headstock is one of my favorite parts of this guitar. It has the huge pre-CBS shape, which I absolutely love on a Strat. It's my very favorite shape on a Strat. Besides maybe that weird Arrowhead Starcaster headstock, that doesn't count. That's not a Fender. It has 2 string retainers, 2 string trees. A real Fender usually only has 1, so that's one of the giveaways here. It does say Affinity right here. Moving down, you have your rosewood fingerboard. It's not super thick, but it's not super thin either. See if you can see that. So, you know, compared to what they're putting out today, that's pretty damn good. The back of the neck is finished really well. It's not super glossy to the point where your hand's going to stick to it, but it's not super matte or unfinished feeling either. So there is that. No skunk stripe here. You have your Squier neck plate. That hasn't really changed at all. This back plate is not original. This is one that I found that I stuck on here. It has one of the very small trem blocks that's about this thick. The bridge itself, it doesn't have stamped saddles. Nothing fancy going on here. I mean, this is just your standard import Squier bridge. The knobs are a little interesting. The numbers, I don't know how well you can tell. Let me get up. So the numbers on this are really small, tall, and thin, and I always liked the way those looked. Most Fenders that I've seen and Squiers that I've seen have fatter, wider numbers that don't look quite like that. I just think it's a nice looking little touch. I mean, say what you will, it's not original, it doesn't look like a Fender, so I could understand if you don't like it, but I always thought that was a quirky part of this guitar that's kind of burned into my memory. You've got your 5-way switch here, pretty clicky. I can tell you I have been under the hood on this one before, and it is not it's not round on the bottom like a normal Fender switch. It's just a flat rectangle, just like most import switches that you'll see. Moving to the pickups now, while we're still zoomed in on it. It's 3 single coils. They are your standard ceramic bar magnet pickups. What's interesting is these are not aftermarket covers. These are actually the original covers, and they used to be white. And what's really interesting is that the pick guard has not aged really at all. It's still snow white. The pickup covers, though, look like somebody smoked 8,000 packs of Marlboros and blew the smoke directly onto them. I don't know why it looks like that, but I like natural aging, don't you? And then the knobs are even aged at a different rate than both the pickup covers and the pick guard. They're a little yellow, but not really. And then the switch tip hasn't aged really at all. You do have your just a standard jack here. And the inlays appear to be actual inlays and not stickers like they've started doing on a lot of Squiers. Yeah, that's the basic overview. One other thing about this is it is thinner. So let me see if I can get another one to compare. Hold on. So if you compare, you can see that the red one is quite a bit thinner than the white one, especially there. So this is a Mexican 2006. This is actually the one I got to replace this one. This was not replaced, but this was my first real guitar, and we will review that at some point. Okay, so now that we've gone over the specs, I mean, there's really not much else to say about it from that standpoint. I figure the best thing to do now is figure out, how does it sound? I mentioned how it felt a minute ago, but how it sounds is one of the most important things. If it doesn't sound good, who cares where it was made? By the way, this one was made in China. It says crafted in China on the back. Doesn't matter where it was made, how it feels, whatever, if it sounds like crap. So let's plug it in and let's do a sound sample right now. Okay, so here we go. I've got it hooked up to my Fender Mustang 1. I figure this is perfect because this was my first guitar. This would be a lot of people's first amp. So I think it wouldn't be fair to put this through my Marshall or this Bandit down here. So let's see how it sounds. So I've got it on a clean setting with a tiny little bit of a tube screamer kind of thing going on. And we're going to start with the neck. Alright, so there's the neck. Let's go to the middle. Alright, let's throw it down to the bridge. It's so easy to play. It sounds like a Strat to me. It sounds great. It feels better than any of the Bullets or any of the Affinities that I've played lately from Squier. And that's not nostalgia talking. That's just how it is, in my opinion. These older Affinity Strats are great. I mean, if you can get a Squier Strat from around 2000, early 2000s and older, you're probably going to do okay, usually. Yeah. So let's put on some overdrive now and see what we can get. Awesome. So I think that with the overdrive, it really sounds good. I mean, this thing, I'll never get rid of it. And like I said, this isn't just nostalgia talking. It's objectively a very good guitar. It is very easy to play, feels like a Strat, looks like a Strat, sounds like a Strat. The body is smaller, which kind of stinks, but hey, they had to cut costs somewhere. If you find one of these out in the wild, you should get it, honestly. If it's less than $100, don't even think about it. If it's less than $200, pick it up and play it, see how you feel about it. But generally speaking, I think you'll be happy with it. This is the one right here that got me to where I am now with the guitar. It was the inspiration that this guitar gave me. This vibrant red. Just the way that it feels, you know? It felt right to me. And if you're somebody who's kind of new with the guitar, or you're thinking about starting, or you haven't started yet, I can tell you that it is intimidating. There is a lot to learn. And if you think about where you want to be, that's important. But instead, don't forget where you are. Don't get your head so far ahead of yourself that you're like, I'll never be able to play Eruption, or I'll never be able to play Sweet Child of Mine, or any of these popular songs. Don't start there. Start with basic stuff. It's a cliche, but Smoke on the Water, start there. Iron Man, start there. Make the sounds that you want to make, and if you're like me sitting in your basement just making noise with your amp, don't be ashamed of that. You'll figure it out. And with YouTube today, there's so many different artists you can watch. There's so many lessons available online now. And if you are in the market for a cheap starter guitar, get a used Affinity Strat, because they are great and they're very special to me. So thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate your time. Please like and subscribe, and also follow the Discord if you want to talk about guitar, gears, etc. I do have an Instagram, it's bigjake.music, and I've got a Twitter, bigjake music. Thanks again, see you next time.